The first thing that you need to realize is that you've only been casting spells and learning how to use magic for about 2 months in the game. You are all rookie wizards, you're apprentice wizards. You're really only good at casting low-level spells. On top of that, you have been trained on how to use arcane magic, things like creating a ball of light, casting a fireball, or moving something with your mind. Those are all arcane spells. Every wizard is going to have a school of magic, which is their focus. And when they create their own spells, that's going to give them sort of a push in a creative direction when they're creating their spells. There are no spell lists. There is no mana to track. There are no spell slots. If you can conjure it up in your mind, you can create any low-level spell that you would be able to cast in D&D or Dungeon Crawl Classics or any other sort of fantasy role-playing game. The magic system in Dick Wizards uses a concept known as failing forward. So no matter what spell you're trying to do, almost all of the time, the intended effect is going to happen. What you're trying to do in that moment will happen. However, there are the chances, the potential for misfires to happen while you're casting a spell. And what these do is these add complications. They are things that the fortune teller can cook up on the spot, or they can roll on a magical mayhem table to sort of add weird things to any given situation that the wizards are now going to have to deal with. When you go to cast a spell, you have to give it a name, and when you're casting that spell, you have to say its name. If you don't do this verbal component, your spell will not work. I cannot stress how important magic is to this game. Without it, it probably doesn't work. As players, you need to be constantly coming up with spells to get around obstacles, to disarm traps, to find clues, use magic. Yes, there are complications, but that's part of the game. Use your magic to become the detectives that solve these mysteries. That is what is going to constantly push you towards your goal. Use magic. Use it. I cannot stress that enough. One of the things that can happen to a wizard is that you can suffer what is called spell exhaustion. If a complication arises, maybe from misfiring a spell, you could get spell exhaustion, or maybe you get hit by a particularly nasty monster's attack. That could cause you spell exhaustion. This is why food is important in the game. You need to be able to consume calories as you experience this spell exhaustion. So what you can do is you can go into your inventory, you can grab something to eat, and you're going to make a con roll. As long as you succeed at rolling under your constitution score, you are going to regain the ability to cast spells. Now, if you eat something that's particularly calorie dense, like a piece of cake or like a big thick piece of like Detroit style pizza that's covered in oily pepperoni, you can make that constitution roll with advantage. So you want to be having food on your persons at all time because you never want to be spell exhausted to the point where you can't cast spells. It's time to learn how to cast a spell. In the rule books, I explain that it is as easy as 1, 2, 3. That is because the fortune teller is going to determine the complexity of the spell that you're trying to cast, and they are going to be drawing from a tarot deck to determine the success of that spell. A simple spell is going to be a 1-card pull. Most spells are going to be a 2-card pull. So anything that is beyond like a simple cantrip, like making a small object levitate or your voice get louder, those are 1-card draws. But like, let's say you want to unlock a door with magic, that's a 2-card pull. Most of the spells in this game are going to be a 2-card pull at the minimum. So that's kind of how the system works, drawing 2 cards for almost every spell. Anything more complex than that, more complicated, like if you want to blow that door off the hinges, that's going to be a 3-card pull. If you want to do damage to any monsters, that's a 3-card pull. The more cards that you pull, the more chances there are for a misfire. And that's how it works. There's going to be 1, 2, or 3 cards drawn from that tarot deck, and those results, there's either going to be a major or a minor arcana card, and that's what we're going to check to see how your spell reacts and if it works perfectly as intended. As a fortune teller, you're going to be looking at the 1, 2, or 3 cards that are drawn, and it is either going to be a major arcana or a minor arcana. The difference being that the major arcana, there's 22 of them in the deck. They are things like Justice, the Sun, the Moon, Death, the Devil. Any of the other cards, those are minor arcana cards. They're the Pentacles, the Wands, the Swords, and the Cups. Any of those cards are going to be considered successful results. Those are what the wizards want to see. They want to see the minor arcana cards. Major arcanas are going to result in misfires and complications. When the deck is completely full, there is about a 1 in 3 chance, slightly less than a 1 in 3 chance, that a major arcana card will be drawn from the deck. So those are kind of the odds right out the gate before you start pulling cards off of the deck. So it's kind of important to know that. There are 5 types of spell results in Dick Wizards that the fortune teller will be looking for after they put out the tarot cards. There are successes, critical successes, misfires, failures, and fumbles. If all of the cards revealed from the tarot deck are minor arcana cards, that is what is considered a success. The spell result happens as intended and there are no negative effects. It is a very, very good result. It's what you want to see most of the time as a wizard. You can get a critical spell result by revealing all minor arcana cards and if they happen to be court cards. So that means there are knights, pages, kings, and queens. All of those are part of the court in the tarot deck. If those are your spell results, if there's at least 2 of them, so this can only happen on a 2 or a 3 card spell. If at least 2 of them are court cards, then you have a critical success. Your spell is going to work as intended and is going to go above and beyond. The fortune teller should give you a really powerful spell result that is incredibly helpful. The first negative spell result that can happen is called a misfire. So if a major arcana card, if just a single major arcana card is drawn, then that is considered a misfire. So the spell's intention still happens, but again, it fails forward and there's just some sort of complication that the fortune teller is going to describe. If they can't think of something up, like right on the top, like right off the top of their head, they can roll on the magical mayhem table on pages 42 and 43, and that will give them all kinds of weird complications that they can add to any situation. The next negative spell result is called a failure. That is drawing 2 or more major arcana cards. That is going to result in a spell failure. That means that the spell intention does not happen, but there is also no misfire. It just doesn't happen. The worst spell result that can happen is called a fumble. There are 3 major arcana cards in the game, in that deck, that will cause a fumble. It is the Death major arcana card, the Devil, and the Tower. If any of those are part of a spell result, then the spell is going to fail and a misfire occurs. It is the worst result that can happen. Also, on top of that, the fortune teller has to reshuffle the deck, meaning that those bad major arcana cards are going to be back in the deck. Casting spells in Dick Wizard isn't just pure luck. You also have a resource called Kismet. This is going to allow you to bend the odds of success into your favor. You can spend as much Kismet as you like, but you will not get any of this back until the very next day, until you've rested. But for each point that you spend, you will block and negate a single major arcana card. So if you spend 1 Kismet point and you draw 3 tarot cards and one of them is a major arcana card, that card will get discarded and a new card will get drawn on top of that. There is one exception to Kismet. If you happen to spend Kismet points and one of the major arcana cards is the Devil, Death, or the Tower, then that fumble is still going to happen, unfortunately. Spending Kismet cannot prevent that catastrophe from happening. So what are some restrictions to casting spells in Dick Wizards? You just can't come up with any spell. There has to be something that reels in your power. All right, so here's a few things. 1, you cannot charm people. It simply does not work no matter what you try. 2, spells do not have long-lasting effects. Again, these are low-level spells that you're casting. If you think about Dungeons and Dragons, this is like a level 1 spell, perhaps. It can last for a short period of time and then it will end. So let's say you imbue a magic carpet with the ability to fly, like you use it to fly around. The carpet will become inert after a short period of time, like maybe like 15 seconds to a minute. It doesn't really matter. It depends on what your fortune teller sort of allows. But just know that you can't use that flying carpet to just fly across the city. Likewise, If you teleport, you can't teleport great distances. You could probably teleport like one zone away, like 30 feet. You also cannot block magic with magic. You can't dispel magic as it's being cast on you. It doesn't work. The other thing you can't do is if a spell's effect is still ongoing, you have to cancel that first spell before you would cast another one. And then finally, you can't just keep spamming the same spell over and over again, because there is an experience system where the more successful cast of a spell that you have, you can eventually master that spell, which will let you automatically discard a major arcana card when you're trying to cast that specific spell. But you can't just spam it over and over again. That will cause you to get spell exhaustion. What happens if you're injured in Dick Wizards and you want to try to heal yourself or maybe one of your friends, fellow wizards? You can absolutely cast healing spells, use healing magic. However, you're not clerics. It doesn't work like it would in D&D or Pathfinder. So when you try to cast a healing spell, the fortune teller is going to draw 5 cards from the tarot deck, and any sort of misfire, fumble, bad spell result is going to result in some kind of permanent mutation, something really bad happening to your wizard, like maybe your middle finger turns into a tentacle or your left thumb is a crab claw. You start getting weird reactions, but you should still try to cast these spells to heal, because you can't always rest. You can't always get to a hospital to heal. You can get a critical success while healing. In fact, that is the only way to cast healing magic and not have some sort of mutation happen. So if of those 5 cards, none of them are major arcana, and at least 2 of them are from the court cards, like the page, the knight, the king, or the queen, you will get a critical success, and your magic, your healing magic, will work perfectly without any complications. So go ahead and try healing magic. Don't be afraid to use it. It's just another fun part of the system to sort of play around with. So one of the questions I almost always get while I'm explaining this game to new players is, if all of this magic is happening, if all of this weird Cthulhian, Lovecraftian nonsense is happening in Providence, why isn't anyone calling the police or letting the authorities know about it? And that's because as wizards, you're one of the few people in the city on the planet that has the third eye. You are able to open up your third eye and experience this weird metaphysical world of magic that nobody else can see. Your average citizen, when they see a Lovecraftian monster with all of its eyeballs and tentacles, they're going to recalculate that imagery into something mundane. Whereas you, as wizards, you're one of the small percentage of folks who have opened up that metaphysical third eye, and you are going to see that imagery for what it truly is. Now, this is good and bad. It allows you to cast magic, and it makes you aware about the truths and horrors of the world, but it can also drive you insane. So just be aware of that. As fortune tellers, the only thing you really need to be able to calculate is the complexity of the spells, if it's a 1, 2, or 3 card pull, and being able to come up with misfires or complications on the fly. But like I said, I've included a magical mayhem misfire table on pages 42 and 43 that you can always look at. And the way that I run those complications is I roll a d20 and I set an alarm on my phone. So if I roll a d20 and I roll a 15, that complication will last for 15 in real world minutes. And when that alarm goes off, I know that the wizard who, whenever they speak, they spit fire out of their mouth, that effect will go away. That's kind of how I run my complications. But do whatever feels right to you. New wizards, if you're playing this game for the first time, maybe look at a D&D magic spell book. Look at like a player's hand guide and see what sorcerer spells, low-level sorcerer, warlock, and wizard spells. That'll give you a good idea of the types of spells you can conjure. Don't overthink it. Just come up with a fun name that makes sense to your school of magic. Figure out what the intent is and use magic. I can't stress how important it is to make this game work and for it to be fun. Constantly use magic to be overcoming things and to solve mysteries and push yourself towards the completion of your adventures. All right, that's going to wrap up this short video series on how to play Dick Wizards. You now know all the player basics, how to create a character, and how spells and magic work. If you have any questions, hit me up in the comments below. If you need me to make a new video about something I didn't cover, let me know. I want you guys to enjoy this game. I had so much fun creating it, and the feedback from players when I teach the game has been incredible. So hit me up. Let me know what you think of the game. Let me know what you think of these videos. In the future, I'm going to be making some non-Dick Wizard videos, so stay tuned for those. And hope you guys have a great day. Take it easy.